Now, in the last video I just did, which you should watch because it's essential to understanding this one, I explained why, both in our society and in Marx's time, despite the rate of production increasing exponentially, working hours have not went down for many people. In Marx's time, this would have been average workers within Britain, and in our time we're looking at this in the case of sweatshop workers. Why, despite the fact that in Marx's time the rate of production increased tens of times, people were actually working more hours than they were in 1760, and why today, currently in the 21st century, people in sweatshops likewise, despite the rate of their production increasing hundreds, in some cases thousands of times compared to the 1760s, people are still in some cases working 14, 15, 16 hour days. And I want to explain, given that the rate of production has increased to such an absurd and ludicrous extent, what happens with this? How is it impossible for an industry to be making hundreds, if not in some cases thousands of times more, again adjusting for population, today as it was in the 1760s? How is there such a surplus? The answer is simple: Mr. Potato Head and other plastic crap. It is the extreme surplus of wealth, of rubbish that we have in our society. In Marx's time, again I was using the example of textiles, whether in the 1760s what they would have been producing is essential clothes, trousers, shirts, that kind of thing. I believe that you would find in Marx's time you would see a far higher rate in the production of higher end clothes, designer clothes and hats and pocket handkerchiefs and ties and scarves and the non-essentials, because again, when you have such a high production rate, something has to be produced, and you can't just keep producing the same trousers and shirts as you were back in 1760, because there's a certain limit to that, there's a certain demand. So you therefore have to make a different product, a more superfluous product, a more luxury and exclusive product which is not necessary, and you have to create a demand for that. In Marx's time it was luxury clothes, it was hats, it was scarves, it was of course lots of other products. Whether it's in our time, it is plastic junk. To also use a real world example, the past few times that I've went to Aldi, they've all been later, and every single time, the first time I saw this was especially shocking. I saw the food they were throwing away, and they had literally like the little flat trolleys with shelf upon shelf upon shelf of food that was for the bin. Cakes, sweets, fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, produce of every kind. And from what I saw of all of it on each consecutive day, again especially on the first day, this trolley, which was quite big, there was quite a few shelves, was literally overflowing with good food. And the reason for this is, when we have a society that produces such a high quantity, that has such a high production, we get things like this. We get things like Mr. Potato Head, plastic crap, and we get an overproduction of food, a lot of which is quite literally dumped. The reason that the production doesn't stop and can't stop is, again, the same logic as I said before. If the capitalist in Marx's day can make 30 or 40 times as much creating a certain product because he's making that much more of it in the same amount of time, the exact same kind of people nowadays are going to be looking for a 300, a 400. Again, in some cases, even on into the thousands. They want to create that much more of that product. So like in Marx's time, they were creating silk hats, scarves, whatever kind of luxury goods. What we see now is plastic junk, plastic crap. We see smoothies, McDonald's, Starbucks coffee. We see luxury products and luxury items of all kinds and in all colours. And of course we see a massive, ridiculous wave of advertisement to create demand for these superfluous things. Again, whether it be toys, plastic crap, fancy food, fancy cakes. We see this everywhere in our society because, again, there is such an